Hello and welcome everybody here to the Tencent LPL Summer. We're here for Week 3, Day 2 coverage as we kick off our first game here as Positive Energy up against OMG. My name is Pastry Sham. I'm going to be joined yet again here by Papa Smithy. Papa, we saw some great matches yesterday on Day 1. What can we expect here in the opening game of Day 2?
And we're certainly starting off with a big game here as it's a rematch of the LPL Spring Splits final. The grand final, of course, was Positive Energy versus OMG. On that day, OMG took the best of 5 down 3-1. They actually also played on the first match day of this season, OMG being able to really snowball a lead there. So I think Positive Energy, they had a very good performance yesterday against Royal. They've probably got a point to prove here against kind of their nemesis at this point, OMG.
Yeah, and the drafts, of course, we're kind of most of the way through here now with the bans completed. On the left there for PE, Twisted Fate, Nunu, and Rise going to get banned out with Thresh, Elise, and Kennen. The 3 bans there for OMG. Looks like Zach's going to go ahead and be the first pick there, Positive Energy, and looks like OMG are mousing over Lysandra to start things off here. So, I mean, Zach, we saw him actually in Day 1. He was, banned and picked a reasonable amount. Do you think that's a strong first pick? Because I guess Rise is banned. That was the other first pick we really saw in a lot of the games yesterday.
I think Zach is just a really strong pick because it's ambiguous. I mean, we saw a lot of jungle Zach, especially from Cloud9 in the NALCS, looking super strong, but he actually scales really well with items. So putting him up the top lane, he can basically split every lane. He almost lanes like a slightly more aggressive Shen. He's still a very tanky man. He's still very resistant to ganks, but does a little bit more damage than Shen. But he's just so safe there and scales so well with items and also has that incredible gank pressure from the jungle with Slingshot that he's just a fantastic choice all around.
Well, it's kind of funny that you mentioned splitting a lane because one of the picks here for OMG in their first two is quite interesting. We've got Caitlyn as the first pick there for AD, so that's not too surprising. But we actually have a Yorick picked up here second for OMG in this draft.
Yeah, and the Yorick also, as the icon showed, hasn't been picked yet in this split whatsoever. So I feel like Yorick really synergizes well with really high damage champions. I mean, the famous one was always Yorick Vayne, but there's also a lot of synergy between Yorick and a constant damage AP carry. Ryze is banned this game. Probably the most famous combination I can remember is Yorick Cassio, but Cassiopeia hasn't seen a lot of play. But I want to see what they're synergizing with here. I mean, Yorick Kate, that's fine, but I'd still like to see some consistent damage coming out to have another threat to use that ultimate on.
Absolutely, but Positive Energy here, they've gotten, looks like maybe Zach top here with Lee Sin picked up and Zed as well, so kind of top, jungle, and a mid all set out. I guess they could rearrange those if they want to, maybe have them in a different order, but it looks like they're pretty happy with the first few picks here. Over on the other side, Renekton and Nami, the pickups here for OMG. Nami continuing to be just a very, very strong and very popular choice, kind of not just here in the LPL, but also around the world. I mean, she kind of does everything as a support.
And Blitzcrank's actually locked in on the Positive Energy side. I think it's a super interesting choice just because I look down the OMG side. Realistically, we've got a front line of Yorick Renekton. Neither of those are people you want to hook, and you're probably not going to be able to hook Caitlyn or Nami. I mean, is this just a reaction to how strong Big Pomelo was on Blitzcrank in yesterday's first game? Are they taking away that Blitzcrank, or do they see something that I'm missing here, I wonder?
I think with Nami there, it doesn't make too much sense to counterpick supports because you have to expect that Big Pomelo is going to play Nami, not Blitzcrank. I mean, it was great yesterday, so absolutely I agree they might want to take it away. I mean, for me, Nami's a very defensive sort of support, so trying to pick her off like you would with against Sona as Blitzcrank makes a little bit of sense, but you're right in that it's quite hard to get to Nami. She's got a lot of CC, she's very slippery, which I guess makes sense, and I don't know, I guess we'll have to see what's going on here, but it looks like we are straight into the game here. And last pick there, of course, Nami going with Vayne, I believe for the second day in a row. I think he played Vayne. No, he played Twitch yesterday, excuse me, which was another great hyper carry that he really used to great effect there. So, be interesting to see what happens here. Positive Energy, of course, here on the left. OMG going to be on the right side here for this best of one. For those of you unfamiliar with how the LPL format works, it's very, very similar to the LCS, both in NA and EU, that most of you will be familiar with. So, it's best of ones here all across the board, but it's 3 match days instead of 2. So, 4 games a day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, of course, here on day 2 of our third week of play, and I'll be very interesting to see who takes this game out, because yesterday's games, Papa, I think the theme of them for the most part was actually quite one-sided.
Absolutely. I mean, the only really kind of, at least on paper, match that you wouldn't really know the winner was the Positive Energy Royal match, which ended up being fairly sided to Positive Energy. Even though there was the 4 Assassin comp coming out of Royal, they never really could lock down that Twitch, but of course you can find that VOD on the site. So today, I mean, we're starting off with a grand final repeat, so you have to think this is going to be just much, much closer.
Absolutely, and OMG, of course, known for general all-out aggression here We'll see if they continue that trend. You have to think there will be positive energy. Nice rounded comp, some very strong individual picks, it feels to me, in terms of champions. You've got Zac, we've got Zed, stuff like that. And Blitzcrank, I think, definitely the wild card, though, for their comp. We'll see if they can get anything done. But you can certainly punish weaker laners or someone like Nami, who's a little squishy, if you can get those hooks going. But come teamfight, who knows here? Looks like junglers are going to start off their blue now, as Loveland's going to start with that one there. Actually, interesting. I'm trying to find their jungler, actually. It is actually Yorick. There we go. That's puzzled out. So it is Nami on support, and Yorick's going to be in the jungle with Orianna, Renekton, mid and top there. So very, very interesting pickup here for OMG.
Yeah, we had a quick load into the game there, so we didn't actually catch that swap there. But, I mean, jungle Yorick does work in some ways just because your ghouls tank all the damage from the minions. So most of the time you can get through pretty unscathed. I mean, the Doran's Blade start here is actually a really safe start for Yorick just because he doesn't have any worries about taking damage from the creeps.
Yeah, this sort of thing I really like from PE though, and this is kind of what I was talking about. Yes, you can punish weak laners, but I think in this situation, like normally Blitzcrank doesn't feel very good in a 1v2 situation just because, you know, it's really hard to punish someone in a long lane, especially if they're a tankier sort of 1v2 champion. In mid though, I think you can really punish a champion like Orianna with Blitzcrank, and Cool's actually a little lucky to not get grabbed there by Seeker early on. A minion was just in the way there. So I mean, Orianna is not going to have any fun at all in this lane, and doing this sort of thing with Blitzcrank 2v1 makes a lot of sense to me, really trying to punish a mid laner.
Yeah, and we saw the 2v1 counterpick to the Zed, yesterday, so it's interesting to see Zed is actually being initiated into this 1v2 this time around from Positive Energy, and they're trying to force this 2v1 on Orianna.
Yeah, so Cool's going to have to hang out here. Jojo as well down the bottom. Going to be okay here. I mean, you can see Sun pretty aggressively positioned there. Lee Sin's actually poking around here, just doing a little bit of babysitting. So trying to make sure that nothing goes too wrong there. Good ball control there from Cool. I mean, you know, there's going to be damage traded back and forth. Jing's going to try and do what he can. Actually goes on to Big Pomelo. Lots of damage coming through. That double buff Lee Sin, very deadly. You can see the Aqua Prison there just coming up from Nami to cover the retreat. But a lot of damage there from Jing being done. Again, you have to be careful with a support like Nami. But at the end of the day, Zed all he's going to really want to do is hang out here. And looks like Loveland, again, taking Qs from the bottom lane. Just going to chill here. And man, Jing really just going in. Every Q he lands down the bottom lane, he's happy to go in and try and do some damage.
Wait, see, he's not trying to force a kill. He's just trying to blow pots. You know, if Big Pomelo has to use one or two pots just because Lee Sin's in the lane, that's just less harass he can eat and less turret shots he can eat later on in the laning phase. So it's just trying to keep OMG on the back foot a little bit.
Yeah, and of course both the 2v1 lanes pushing pretty aggressively here, and Blitz not great in a push, Vayne not a great pusher either without a lot of items. Caitlyn definitely the opposite there, really pushes hard with that Piltover Peacemaker, and of course Nami being a range, which is something you just also discussed yesterday, Papa, can get some of that tower damage done. But looks like mid lane, I mean, all that pressure onto Orianna is making Cool play very, very defensively, and with Lee Sin's early appearance down in the bottom lane, I think P is actually winning in the tower race here.
I mean, the curious thing to me is just because, as you noted, like Blitzcrank is not a good turret pusher, so they're not going to be able to get this mid turret down super fast. Just as a melee champion, he gets punished for pushing turrets. So, you know, I look and see what is it that they're looking to get out of forcing this 2v1 mid, because Orianna has ranged wave clear. You know, you can use her auto attack and her abilities. So, to see the hook coming in on there. Probably not going to be enough damage to take down the really tanky Yorick there. Yeah,
Loveland a little lucky to not get condemned into the wall there, so Yorick's just going to walk out there. I mean, he knows he needs to try and do something here coming in to relieve some pressure. Gets grabbed for his trouble, which pretty impressive. It's quite hard to grab Yorick, actually, with ghouls flying around every now and then. But Loveland does take a little bit of damage there. He's going to be okay, though, and the pressure will continue here in mid. Looks like down the bottom, actually, Jojo quite low from all that harass that's coming in. Very frustrating to play against Caitlyn just generally, but 2v1, here is Zed, who's, you know, obviously very melee. Lee Sin down here as well, also quite melee. Gonna be a little bit of trouble here down the bottom. And as I said, as is a lot of the case with 2v1 lanes, it really depends on how the solo laner in that situation handles what's going on. And classically the thing we've seen is fast tower pushing. So I'm really curious to see which team gets an edge there, and if so, how the game kind of transitions from there.
Yeah, so to me, forcing this 2v1 in mid gets Vayne and Blitzcrank through the laning phase, and maybe that's what they want. Maybe they want, because in Blitzcrank, you initially think of him as just really a high-pressure laner, but in competitive play, as we see Jin go into Nami once again, in competitive play, you don't really get those early hooks in lane. You don't really win lane at level 1 or 2. So maybe just babying Blitzcrank and Vayne, hyper carries and then high-impact supports through the laning phase is what Positive Energy wants to do with this swap.
Yeah, and we'll have to see if it works out. I mean, Blitzcrank is, you've said, really, really gets going in the mid game. If you can make something happen, he's really at his strongest at that point when you're roaming around looking for skirmishes.
And when you have mid-turret down as well, Pastry Time, when you have that extra space to get aggressive wards in and try and get those picks.
Absolutely. So when you start roaming, as 3 or even as 5, something that OMG are actually quite well known for doing, then you can definitely take advantage of that pick. But right now they're just trying to get damage to the bottom turret. Sorry, the mid-turret, bottom turret's the same here for OMG as well. I mean, Caitlyn, she's the Queen of Siege, doing a good job pushing down here, but Jing has been down here actually pretty much permanently at this point. He's not even jungling right now, he's just straight up, it's a 2v2 lane.
It's a bit reminiscent of CJ Frost's Cloud Templar, who, regardless of the jungler he plays, never really focuses on ganks, more focuses on helping with wave clear. I mean, it's not something we usually expect with Lee Sin, but it's what he needs in the bot lane, so it's what he's getting.
Absolutely, and I guess just to highlight that difference, Yorick right now, not the strongest jungler in terms of clear. Loveland actually has a tier right now and his Doran's both, who's going through it reasonably quickly, but he's significantly far ahead of Lee Sin, who really has just said, you know what, I need to buy some time for my teammate. I mean, he's down the bottom now here, looks like Lee Sin's backed off. Loveland here, now coming down to the bottom lane to try and help out some of that push, so they're going to get that going there in the bottom lane. It's just funny to see that, Yorick, a jungler who traditionally you don't associate with, super clear speeds from the jungle, is significantly far ahead, just because Jing's basically said, I'll be a second support for a couple minutes.
And I wonder what the function of a Yorick jungle pick is. I can see it in the Cassio comps like we talked about, where the ult really synergizes, but there's nothing that jumps out to me here as fantastic Yorick ult synergy. I guess you could say he's a jungler that provides decent wave clear in a turret sieging sense, and of course he's able to tank turret very well on a gank, but it's just such an offbeat, interesting pick from OMG.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Caitlyn, not the hyperest of carries, like it's not the latest game of carries in terms of power. So, I mean, yeah, getting a second Caitlyn's always nice, but you do normally see this higher impact AP because, of course, I believe your basic attack damage is reduced while in
its attack damage is the percentage that scales, but any sort of magic damage doesn't scale with Yorick's ult level.
Yep, so, I mean, we'll have to see. It's clearly something that they wanted. They picked it very, very early here in this comp, so...
It was deceptive, that's for sure. We didn't catch it till about 30 seconds into the game. But...
That is true. A good blue buff here with the T going as well. I guess Oriana's probably going to get the next blue, but looks like Loveland's taken, I think, the first and the second one here as well. So, I mean, he's, happily clearing down. I mean, it's interesting to see Loveland now actually as a jungler down the bottom lane kind of pushing. And it looks like Caitlyn and Nami are going to come back, though. I think OMG might think about Dragon here, actually. So... It
just feels like this is a lazy Saturday start for the OMG and Positive Energy team. Just because yesterday, the Friday matches, the week 3 day 1 matches, we saw a very fast turret push, we saw kills a minute. I mean, at 9 minutes to have basically no objectives going down, this is the first objective of the game, the Dragon here, with no turrets and no kills. Just such a reaction to yesterday's games.
Yeah, I mean, OMG's day 1 game this week, they had a kill in less than a minute, and now, of course, there's no kills on the board.
They didn't slow down from there,
No, they didn't. So, I mean, I think Positive Energy kind of know the sort of game that OMG want to be playing. I mean, OMG, interestingly enough, have almost picked...
It's not the Freight Train comp here at all, though, basically.
No.
I mean, they can use the Oriana ult to initiate picks if they really want to. I mean, the Nami wave can do it, but that's really all they've got. And as a team that's known for the liberal use of ultimates to get picks, you don't see the Graves, you don't see the Thresh, you don't see the Hecarim kind of champions that they kind of sprung to fame with.
No, it looks like going here in the top. Actually, it's going to do a bit of damage to K9s, but as you've noted, very, very hard for Zac to do anything other than split
It's two very tanky man-page town. There's no kill potential here.
No, it's just going to be a farm fest, and they're pretty almost dead even on farm there with a few between them. So yeah, they're just, going to hang out the top lane. We've seen no jungle pressure up there either, of course, with the two different 2v1 lanes needing a bit of help. So everyone's just going to hang out, and they'll be fine there as they farm. Well, it looks like Going's going to go back. Jing actually hanging down the bottom here as well. Cool's actually rotated down now as well. So it's interesting that I guess she was sick of the mid lane here. They actually want to prevent some of that push that was coming in through the mid there. Try and keep that tower alive for a little longer. Good hold there as well. Jojo could be in trouble, but Jing's going to come through there. A nice individual play there from Cool. Almost getting a kill there. But Lee Sin thankfully was looking to set up the gank. Actually managed to prevent that kill from going down as well.
Yeah, and just a real quiet start. We look down the farm here. The only real advantage, double CS on Yorick versus Lee Sin. But Lee Sin actually the same or maybe even slightly more experienced just because he's been basically a dual laner most of the game.
So I guess, looking at these comps, you can see what Positive Energy are trying to do. They've got strong initiation in Blitz, strong initiation in Zac, a hyper carry in Vayne.
Good skirmish as well. The 2v2 between, like a Zac Lee Sin 2v2 or a Lee Sin Z 2v2, very strong as well. So, I mean, they have a very nice balanced comp, and you're also getting Vayne through the laning phase.
Yeah, good. You know, Zed there as well can also do some split pushing, so they've got a lot of different options. OMG, again,
What does their comp do, Pastry Time? I mean, we have a bit of time here. It's been a quiet game. Let's try and look at the champs and work out what exactly does OMG's comp do. They do team fight pretty well. They're very tanky. I mean, getting to Sun is going to be an exercise in frustration for Positive Energy, but I mean, they don't necessarily. I mean, they siege okay, but I just don't really see how all these champs fit together in a cohesive way.
I'm not sure either, and I'm kind of waiting for OMG to group at one point in the game and
prove it exactly and tell us why they're good together.
I think we'll learn something. I mean, I certainly agree with the tankiness. They could, you know, maybe make a second Renekton and get really, really tanky with Yorick's ult and just throw a whole bunch of people in. They've got decent teamfight control ultimates between Orianna and Nami.
I've come up with one thing.
Okay.
If you cloned Renekton, I believe his ultimate would be basically a double Sunfire cape in a fight.
That's correct.
And he wouldn't die anytime soon.
No. That would work. That would be quite
I can see that.
Yeah, certainly. This is like their first pick was Caitlyn, they picked that Yorick. I mean, they could have moved him around somewhere else, but they kind of already guessed what the top lane was going to be with Zac, so it's interesting. But we'll see. I'm sure OMG have put something together here. I mean, you know, they're playing Pantheon on day one.
Top of the division, they're the previous winners. You have to give them credit, but I'm curious for sure.
Certainly, and you know, both these teams really just looking for a foothold here. I mean, OMG, interestingly enough, actually have a pretty massive lead. I guess that Dragon is doing very nice things for them in terms of global gold. The CS in general, pretty much even actually. In fact, everyone on PE is more or less ahead, with Renekton being slightly ahead in the top lane there. So really that Dragon, the only advantage, just over 1,000 gold for OMG here as we tick past the 13-minute mark. Really interesting to see what's going to happen here. But I think what's really cool about this game is that both teams have started in sort of aggressive 2v1 spots, and both teams have reacted accordingly to keep their first tower up.
Absolutely, as I see Blitzcrank looking for hooks, not really getting much purchase out of that. It feels like the first fight here, the major items are going to be done, at least one major item on every carry here, because we see, you know, the bits, you can see the makings of a build from a lot of champions here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we could have the first fight at, say, 20 minutes for the next Dragon to come up. It's due in a few minutes at this point, I believe. I think OMG took it around the 10-minute mark, so, you know, we could have another fight in a few minutes here, and absolutely I expect, with the farm going well, that we might have some bigger items here, which is interesting. I mean, you know, if Sticker gets a hook, they probably get a kill, but unfortunately, as you said, at this level, it's quite hard for Blitzcrank to really trick somebody and get a good
in
hook
a short lane as well, Pastry Time, without flash or a serious misplay, it's quite difficult to make many plays as a Blitzcrank in mid lane.
And it's funny because I mentioned that I liked Blitz in mid, particularly in the early stages, because you can get a lot of pressure because it is a shorter lane. But at this point, I think as people develop their lane, especially in a 2v2 situation like this, I think it's way harder for Blitzcrank to take advantage of that. And at this point, you know, he's just hanging out as a support. I mean, Vayne's getting farm, Caitlyn's getting farm, so both AD carries are happy. In fact, everyone's pretty much happy on farm. The only one who isn't is Jing, who's really hurting at this point. But, you know, he's Lee Sin, doesn't need too much farm here.
Absolutely, and he's gone for the Doran's into Sightstone, basically, utility build. Like, he's not looking to build a Spirit Stone item, he's just happy to be a ward-jumping playmaker.
Yeah, Loveland, on the other hand, gone completely just mana mode right now. He's got his tier, which he got quite early. He's got a Spirit Stone up now as well.
Which of the Spirit Stone upgrades is the interesting point to me? That's the one thing about the current builds I'm not sure about, just because there has been some popularity of the Spirit of the Elder Lizard Yorick, I believe, because his ghouls, I believe, apply the true damage passive, but I mean, it could just be a very tanky Spirit of the Ancient Golem.
If he really wants to, he could take the Spectral Wraith as well. I mean, I think Yorick's one of those champions, maybe all options are actually good to him, but we'll see here. I mean, again, jungle Yorick, not something we see all that often, so interested to see how OMG really pieces this together. Looks like bottom lane, though, they finally managed to pressure Jojo out. He's actually not quite coming back with his Blade of the Ruined King. He's got his Brutalizer as the first turret of the game finally falls there at 15 minutes and 20 seconds. That's quite a while for that first tower to go down. Almost feels like we're back in Season 2.
I feel like I should write that down, because I don't think we will see another game this season with a later first turret.
Yeah, that's almost, what, more than double at least the time we normally expect them. There's the mid tower answered, so looks like the game's breaking up a little. I think Dragon must be back up, and it is, I believe. And looks like both teams kind of know what's up. PE going to get there first, though. Zed going to return here as well. Vayne's got a Blade of the Ruined King. So does Caitlyn, actually. So as you said, Papa, fight with major items. There's a grabbing Orianna. Bad news there coming through. Zac over the top in there as well, trying to take it out. But Big Pommeler's going to walk in with the tidal wave as Orianna's trying to get out there. Going's going to come through as well. Sana joining the fight. Orianna coming through there as well. Renekton's in the backlands, trying to disrupt as much as he can. Jodu's in there, but he's taking so much damage. He's almost going to go down, and there's Renekton with that kill. And still they come out now. 1-for-1 trade here as we go through. Jing takes out Orianna in there as well. But looks like OMG going to get the better of this one. Chase people down. I heard a Vayne ultimate getting activated, but I I don't know if they can get in here. Jing actually going to as well, but a great Aquapis in there from Big Pomelo, and it's absolute carnage right now. 3 for 1, the trade there for OMG. Name getting chased down by Going though. Name's going to try and outplay Renekton coming through as well. Blitzcrank very low, going to get ace in the whole thing. He will go down. I think it looks like Vayne actually got away there. Renekton couldn't quite find the chase. Loveland going to start dragging in here as well. And you said it, Papa, we're going to have one big fight with some major items completed, and OMG come out completely on top of that one.
I mean, Going was just a massive terror in that team fight page time. Renekton was doing so much work. I mean, he only has the Spirit Visage and, the Giant Spot, so he's getting very, very tanky, but he was just disrupting and doing massive damage in that fight.
And we talk about how, when you get kills, you need to force objectives. This is going to be a big double here for OMG. They're going to get the mid tower, and they're going to get that Dragon, which Loveland soloed. So, huge win for them here, as they finally break open this game at around 16.5 minutes.
And Jojo just wasn't really in assassination mode. I mean, he has the Brutalizer, he has the Bilge Order, but no Blade the Ruined King to really get that full Z effect.
Yeah, it feels like, he's 1 minute or so off of a very key item timing that would have made things a lot easier there, and he got exhausted and completely focused down by OMG as well. They really played that nicely. Tried to get in there and assassinate. Looks like Deathmark in the top lane, going to try and make it happen. This time, Cool got to be in a little bit of trouble. Actually, ults there back into the tower. Very nice play there, but Jojo's going to get up, condemn into the wall, and that's an easy kill for Name, as 3 members of PE dive there in the top lane to take him out. So a good reactionary kill there. In fact, everyone rotating back up as well. Zed's going to go back to base, but 4 members of Positive Energy are here. We'll see what OMG can do in terms of reaction. Yorick's going to make it to the party first, but PE, I mean, to their credit, despite losing a 4-1 teamfight plus Dragon plus that tower, they're making a good job of, coming back here and making sure they keep on top of objectives. Tidal Wave is going to whiff, unfortunately, and I think that means everyone else from Positive Energy going to walk straight out of that one.
Absolutely. It was a nice rotation there. I mean, the lack of damage from the Deathmark was pretty stark from Jojo, but of course a lovely cleanup came out in the end. But they couldn't, translate that kill into an objective, and that's kind of the issue for Positive Energy right now, given that they're 4.6k gold down in a very muted first 18 minutes.
Yes, you can see that great hook actually coming out to Loveland. Damage coming through, the silence in there, and Canine's over the top. Picks up that kill. Aquaprison, not enough there from Nami, who was trying to get in there and save his buddy, but...
Blitzcrank mechanics.
Yeah, that was really nice hook there from Sicker. I mean, you said it, right? He needs to get into a point where he can start making some plays, and it's these sort of situations when teams are getting grouped in the mid-game here where you can really find some space, where you can actually get some stuff done, and that was a great hook.
And with the Oracle Space time, he's also following up on that need for some exclusive vision to get those picks.
And really what they're doing here is buying time for Zed down the bottom lane. He needs his Blade of the Ruined King. He can get the split push going. He can really start pressuring here. And OMG, seeing him, I think, initially realized that they could actually get in and try and take out the top tower. But a great hook there almost again onto Big Pomelo. Very close to hitting him again. I mean, OMG...
And Zed is, a master split pusher. The standard team strat with a Zed is also always to let him split where possible, to pick up that item advantage. You kind of want him grouping when he's got the Blade of the Ruined King and the Black Cleaver, just because he has damage and some, damage armor shred utility as well. So he's level 13, he's got the wave clear down, but look at this Yorick, he's really smashing up Jojo.
Yeah, Loveland going to go in, he's got double buffs actually, he's going to do quite a bit of damage, use his ultimate actually to try and make it better, but there's a Living Shadow over the wall. Nice slow there as well from Jojo, using all his energy, and he'll get out of there. I think...
we always wonder when the Zed will get big enough that there's no one on the enemy team that can 1v1 him, and Loveland showing there that time is still quite a long way away.
He does have his Blade of the Ruined King now, does Jojo, so going to make things a little easier here. I mean, I can't quite remember where Zed was picked in the draft. I believe 3rd he was picked. I mean, it makes sense.
Definitely an earlier pick in the draft.
Well, they second picked Yorick, so it's not like... I mean, if they expect Zed, maybe they want Yorick to try and stop some of that push, but even then, a Sticker here going to get ulted up by Orianna. Damage coming through, and he will lose that Oracles now. Looks like Renekton trying to follow up. A good tidal wave in there as well. That's a nice pick there coming through. Canine's very low there, as Go again is trying to dump on Name. The damage coming out from Zac. The ace of the hole will come through, and that will get the kill there, as no passive is up there for Zac. No one there to block it, unfortunately. And you mentioned it before, OMG, they love to use their ults to pick off. Nami is still a champion that facilitates the way they like to play.
Yeah, and it's showing it there, absolutely, with the just liberal use of the ultimate. I mean, usually you think of the tidal wave as a disengage tool, but it has that long arrow. You can use it for an engage if you need to.
Absolutely. It's, almost like it moves like kind of so slowly, you think it's never going to hit you, and then it does, you're like, oh, this is very bad.
And if you're not in vision when it starts, it can creep up to you. And that's kind of the appropriate word there, because as you say, it does have that slowish travel speed. It can creep up to you if it's just straight down the middle of a lane in vision. But when it comes out of vision, you can get surprised.
I think the other nice thing I really like about OMG's comp actually is that, if Tidal Wave's a little slow to get in, it eventually kind of sets things up for you. You can get Renekton in there very quickly with an Orianna ball on top, he can slice and dice in, and you can set up a very devastating, almost double knock-up with the shockwave plus the tidal wave coming through. So, I mean, it's not quite the OMG comp I used to, but there are definitely elements, certainly the way they're playing it, with how they really like to play their game.
And when we look at the 5v5 fights, you can say that actually, Yorick is a very strong pick against Blitzcrank just because the ghouls, of course, can interrupt the rocket grabs.
Loveland in trouble,
but of course, it wasn't picked like that. As you see Jing try and force a
he didn't have his ultimate.
So I don't want to give him credit to be like, oh, he countered Blitzcrank with that Yorick pit. It's just, that's how it's all come together.
Sure. And I mean, they picked Yorick for a reason. I mean, Loveland's probably going to get as much mileage as he possibly can out of this one. I have to say the jungle control's really been in favor of Loveland, just due to the fact that Lee Sin's had to be down the bottom lane trying to shake off that 2v1 pressure. I mean, we mentioned it before, Vayne Blitz maybe has good kill potential, but doesn't really have the same siege pressure that a champion like Caitlyn does, even with a champion like Nami, who's, not the best pusher compared to, say, someone like Lulu. But, Loveland, I mean, he's still very far ahead in CS. It's actually almost doubling Lee Sin's current CS here, and he's been all around the jungle just clearing out waves where he can, clearing out buffs where he can as well. Actually, all 4, actually that maybe is a visual bug. I could have sworn I saw 4 double buffs. Yeah, okay, whoa, that's crazy. There's like 6 buffs in play, or things are bugging out, I'm not too sure.
I mean, there can definitely be 6 double buffs in play, depending on utility masteries.
That's true also. But right, basically, a lot of buffs right now on the OMG side, and a lot of that is just due to Loveland's pressure here, and the fact that Lee Sin had to actually kind of chill out and help JoJo in the bottom lane. Oh, looks like Kanon's going in though, damage coming through. Zach's going to try and get in there, a good tidal wave for disengage. Orianna ult as well, getting everybody out, and Jing's going to go down there. A great Aquapizza, not quite getting there as JoJo Living Shadows out of the way, but the damage still coming through. Forced to flash there is Zed. Now Kanon's could be in trouble. Flash forward there from Loveland, good slow into Name. They're going to try and get things done. Zach again, going to get very low here, but he bursts into blobs there, and looks like they're going to keep going here. OMG relentless in their chase. Loveland very, very low, but that's actually his ghost taking up the turret. They're still going to go through here. Orianna slow getting in there. Very, very nice moves, and OMG clean up house once again. Very, very nice mechanical play there from Loveland to tank up those towers, and just a really nice counter initiation in general. 4-for-0 goes that team fight.
And a lot of the early decisions by Positive Energy have led to the team fights coming up as they do. Positive Energy decided they wanted to force that 2v1 in mid lane, which basically drew Jing bottom lane. Jing, was that duo laner basically. So when you look at the front line here of Zac and Lee Sin and compare it to Renekton and a very farmed at this point jungle Yorick, there's no comparison whatsoever. Going is a tanky beast, and Yorick is too, whereas Lee Sin, he just picked up his Aegis. He only had parts of it before. He's a very, very squishy frontliner. He only really had, insect potential. He only really had initiation potential. He didn't really have frontline tankiness potential. So that's really hurting them here. This Lee Sin isn't relevant as a frontliner whatsoever.
No, and Loveland's been doing a lot of farming on jungle Yorick. I mean, part of the issue with someone like Yorick in the jungle is that he kind of needs items to get going. Like, he's very tier dependent as a champion. He really needs that mana going. He wants items if he can get them. He's actually got a Frozen Heart, Ninja Turbo, and that Spirit Stone tier that he's had for most of the game as well. I mean, Yorick, I would be worried as a jungler just because I'm afraid I can't get enough farm to really, be in the front line and be that constant bruiser sort of presence that Yorick can be. He's very tanky.
I mean, look at it on paper though, Pastry Time. It's Lee Sin versus Yorick. If this was a solo queue game, you'd be deadly afraid that the Lee Sin would go out there and get massive advantage, snowball lanes, and the Yorick would only really be able to farm the jungle. But instead, we didn't have a first blood to, I believe, 18 minutes in the game. So Yorick was free to farm the jungle, and they were really happy to see Jing down bottom lane just clearing waves because they didn't have any jungle pressure disadvantage that you might have expected based on the picks.
I couldn't agree more, and that's what I think the beauty of the way OMG set up their lanes was. Have an aggressive pusher like Caitlyn. I mean, Nami's just a good champion, it fits with OMG's playstyle, but they were really hammering that bottom lane, and I have to think that the way they chose to set up their lanes kind of gave Loveland the space he needed to farm up, and right now it's really, really hard for Positive Energy to get a whole lot done.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, OMG just went standard.
Sure.
Positive Energy was the one that forced the deal here. And it feels like their early bet is really hurting them.
I mean, it's hard to say which lane swaps, who started the first swap, but I have to think that OMG would have wanted to make a swap regardless.
They were clearly very happy with how things turned out, that's for sure.
Yes. I mean, it's hard to say. Loveland did basically zero ganking, and Jing, of course, couldn't do any ganking either because he was babysitting, so be interesting to see what happens if Loveland is in a different situation where the lanes kind of lay out more standard and he's forced to maybe do some ganks, because Yorick ganks are kind of funky, but I don't know. I mean, OMG right now, they've clearly read the situation. They had their champions picked out for whatever reason, and they're playing this game very well regardless of what specifically they want to get out of this comp, because I don't know about you, Papa, I'm still not quite sure what they're doing with this jungle Yorick.
The items don't lie though, Patient.
Jin going to kick him back in there as well. That's bad news, but looks like Loveland, he's very tanky right now. The rest of the team going to come to Tidal Wave in amongst it as well. In fact, he's still alive, is Loveland. He even pops his ultimate there for a bit of extra. Nami going to come in, and Jin will clean that kill up in there as well. Good going though, right onto Nami. That Renekton is so deadly. The rest of PE very split here. Kanon's getting low. He's trying to get out of Zac, but he can't quite do it. San will pick up credit for that one. Damage still coming through as Lee Sin goes down to Renekton. Jojo now getting chased out as well, trying to assassinate San, but it's not nearly enough. And once again, OMG, another 4-for-1. Maybe that. Nope, never mind. That ace in the hole just to annoy Blitzcrank there, as I think Renekton looks like he's chasing him, and there he is, but Blitz will get away with overdrive there. No extra kills there for OMG, but another very one-sided fight.
Yeah, initiating on the Yorick there was basically blowing your
good grab.
15 seconds pastry time.
That grab was sick, but was not enough there for Sicker, unfortunately, who just gets completely dumped on by the rest of OMG. And now it's bad news here for PE. They lost their middle inhibitor turret. They'll lose their inhibitor here as well. And just with some really, really great fights and really great grouping, OMG showing like they're arguably the best team in the LPL, right?
I mean, absolutely, and the way it's all worked out, it just feels like Zed is completely irrelevant this game. I mean, he is behind. They did put him in a 1v2 situation, but he looked 240 CS. You expect him to have the burst potential, but he's been basically inconsequential in the fights. And I guess the one thing you can say about Yorick is that he kind of functions as a guardian angel for whoever Zed's going on. This is not a team comp that Zed can really get in on and do some much assassinating.
That's true. I mean, one of the common reactions we saw when Zed was really, really popular was Kayle, and you kind of have a similar effect there with the Yorick ult as well.
Yeah, and Kayle jungle actually provides pretty decent gank pressure as well. So I guess they just thought they needed the tanky frontliner rather than the utility damage jungle Kayle pick.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have a big frontline here with Renekton. I mean, Renekton himself is just absolutely massive.
Maybe we're seeing the screw you Zed team comp.
Maybe. I mean, it's interesting because, again, Zed was picked after Yorick was, but, I mean, OMG clearly, either by design or just with the way the picks fell out, kind of thought about it and said, you know what, our biggest worry is probably this Zed here.
And he can't split push and win against the enemy jungler, I mean, let alone going on Renekton. He can't get the assassinations down because it's a tanky team and they have the Yorick. It's just a very, very sad ninja.
Yeah, and San there, you can see him going aggressive. I have to say, we described the way OMG plays. Everyone knows it. It's the freight train. They love to get picks. I think Namo got
it looks like
there.
It was an aggressive game too. It's 15-4.
It does, but I mean, we had 16 minutes of inactivity from both teams with one dragon. I think, as you said, first blood was very late here in this game, and all of a sudden OMG just team fight after team fight. And for me, I'm really curious to see when teams are going to start banning Nami against OMG, because Nami fits their playstyle perfectly.
Absolutely. Big Pomelo, whether it's engaging or disengaging, gets so much purchase out of that Nami pick.
We even saw it yesterday from Positive Energy. They were running Nami Twitch. Having a long-range AD carry and Tycole's Blessing means that you effectively get a very easy, very free pick just based on the fact you have an on-hit slow with a big auto-attack range. And, you saw Sun before in the top lane go aggressive there and almost get a kill onto Lee Sin by tower diving there. I mean, Caitlyn obviously doing a lot of damage at this point. In fact, 3 damage items finished up here for Sun is very, very scary, but Nami has to start getting banned, I think. She's just way too good, especially with a team like OMG. And interesting to see as we continue on with the LPL, what adaptations these teams make over the week.
Absolutely. I mean, Nami's just a power pick in every scene just because she has so many options. She has that combat heal. She has the auto-attack amplifier for her carry. And, of course, that bubble, that ranged, knock-up kind of effect is so strong. I believe it's listed as a stun, but in some ways it actually functions more like a knock-up. So there's so many options from Nami, and that's just discounting completely a massively powerful ultimate.
Absolutely. And looks like OMG, they're pretty happy here. They've got a very nice gold lead here. I mean, Caitlyn, as we said, very, very tanky right now. Renekton down the bottom lane. Yorick actually in the mid right now, going to do some pushing. And looks like the rest of them up here in the top lane. I mean, it's really OMG. I don't blame them for split pushing here. It's a very easy, very comfortable way for them to win this game. The mid inhibitor is open at pretty much any time. In fact, it's still going in there. Kanon's actually in the top lane. Going to try and get in there under Sani. Activates Let's Bounce. A Tidal there from Big Pomelo to try and get it done. There's the grab actually coming out for Blitz as well. But Zac's already into Bloodlust. Nami takes a massive chunk of damage there. And a good ult there from Oriana. Snags 2 in the back. And that's really, really nice play there from OMG. Pomelo gets himself out of trouble. Kanon's is in a lot of trouble there. Nami actually turns around for Exalt. Ace in the hole. Not quite enough there, but Sans legendary right now. Doing silly, silly, silly amounts of damage. And OMG don't even need the rest of their team. Going in Loveland. In the mid, taking out that inhibitor once again. Looks like Jojo's finally back up. He may be trying to take out Cool, but Sun, way too much damage on this Caitlyn. And I mean, Big Pomelo almost didn't die. That does fall at the end, but another 4-for-1 trade there for OMG. I think they're going to happily close out this game from this point.
And K9's just needed to make something happen there on the Zac. He did, but of course, with that long slingshot range, even in a 5v3 situation, it was never the 5v3, right? It was just a 1v2, then it became a 3v2. It was always split attention. And unfortunately, Positive Energy, they tried something they needed to, given they were losing this game. But another win comes down for OMG, 7-1 in the LPL right now.
And really just looking once again like they're completely on form. Like they ended the last season, they're starting this one off very, very strong in there as well. So great opening game here. Very interesting from both teams to kind of see some different picks maybe. I mean, Blitzcrank, we saw in day one. Haven't seen him for a little while, but clearly was something here for Positive Energy. And of course, Jungle Yorick, who's going to forget that, Papa Smithy?
No, and it worked to treat that game. I mean, the pick order completely deceived him. Maybe that was the master. Maybe it was just they wanted to pick Yorick. Maybe it wasn't always going to be a jungle Yorick, but even though it was that Yorick versus Lee Sin matchup, Yorick came out on top in this one game on this day.
So we'll continue on with Week 3 Day 2 coverage. Of course, if you'd like to catch today's games or yesterday's games from Day 1 here in Week 3, head over to youtube.com/LOLChampSeries. You can catch more Tencent LPL Summer action. Of course, we'll be back with more. Stay tuned.